Hi, I'm Terence Chia. I'm the co-host of a podcast called Yalla but I'm here today on the Purple Parade podcast, Purposeful Reflections, to talk to someone who's got a very interesting story. But maybe I should let him just start first. So maybe Winston, do you want to come in and introduce and tell us what we're here to talk about today as well?
So, hi everyone, my name is Winston. I have volunteered at Purple Parade for the past 8 to 9 years. So this is something very meaningful to me. I'm currently working at Include as a diversity and inclusion lead. So over at Include, we help persons with disabilities to find employment and achieve independent living. And we also work with corporates out there who are on the journey of inclusive hiring.
Okay, great. So, I mean, you yourself, you work in the field of helping people with disabilities. But yourself as well, you also have grown up with a disability, right?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit more about what it is and how the experience of growing up with it was?
According to my parents, I was actually born with perfect hearing, right? And none of my family members or relatives have any hearing loss. But at the age of 4, I started to have some form of hearing loss. Right? So there was one night when my mom was calling my name when I was watching TV in front, and she noticed that I didn't turn around to acknowledge her when I usually would acknowledge her. So that was when she realized something may be wrong, and she brought me to the hospital for a checkup. And from there, yes, it proved that I had some mild hearing loss at that time.
I see.
Yeah.
And for you at that time, was it something that you were conscious that you were different from other people, other children?
To be honest, no, because at the age of 4, it was just mild hearing loss, so I didn't need to wear hearing aids or any special devices. But by the time I reached age of 10, which is primary 4, my hearing worsened to the point that I needed to wear hearing aids. And that was actually the first time ever that I started to feel different, right? Because it was back then the hearing aids were very big.
Yeah.
The size was very big, and putting them on my ears was make it very conspicuous. I still remember the first day I went on to class wearing the hearing aid. It was actually midway through the year already. Right?
Okay.
The moment I stepped into the class, I noticed that a lot of classmates started to look at my ears. Then some of them asked me, "Oh, what are you wearing?" Yeah. So I just told them that I'm wearing hearing aids. Then they had a very strange look on their face. They were like, because I think back then nobody really know what hearing aids were. Right? So I had to explain that I'm deaf. Right? And things actually went downhill from there. Right? So people started to bully me, just for wearing something extra on my ears.
I see. I want to ask you a little bit about that, but before that, like, how about your family? How do your family respond to you starting to need hearing aids for your day-to-day activities?
Couldn't really remember what were their reaction, but I briefly remember when I needed to wear hearing aids. My parents, especially my mom, okay, she felt very unfair of everything that is happening to me. Right? Because I think simply because none of my family members or relatives have hearing loss, as I mentioned. Right? So she was just wondering why am I being like that, right? Being so treated unfairly. But I guess as things went on, people get used to it, right? So my family members also got used to it, and they also kind of learn how to accommodate, right? Even though knowledge about hearing loss or disabilities back then wasn't so prevalent as now.
So, I mean, for yourself, I'm sure there was a period of accommodation, or at least like starting to understand it, right? Were your own feelings about it? Did you share the same feelings, like what your mother was saying, like it wasn't fair and everything? How did you feel about it when you first started having to wear hearing aids yourself?
Uh, I think when I first started to wear the hearing aids, right, I kind of remember I didn't really feel that much different,
Okay.
right? Because I know that I have hearing loss, since kindergarten all the way, and but what truly hit me was after the bullying started, right? So after the bullying started, then it started to make me feel inferior about myself. Also feel very conscious of what I'm wearing on my ears. Yeah.
The bullying thing, I think it's something a lot of people, young people in school face. But I'm sure for you there must have been an added dimension as well, right? Can you talk a little bit about like how much harder it was for you compared to the cases of bullying that we read or hear these days?
I would say compared to now, the bullying back then was more physical. Yeah, in a sense that there were times when my classmates would pull off my hearing aids in class, and then they would throw the hearing aids to each other and force me to play monkey to get the hearing aids back. Right? And also, they didn't just target my hearing aids, right? Because they simply didn't like me as a person. Right? So they did other ways of bullying, like throwing my bag around the classroom, throwing my bag down out of the classroom onto the ground floor. So I had to run to pick it up. Right? I would say some of the bullying were not targeted towards my disability, but my disability was the catalyst for the bullying. And also, one sad thing was initially I had friends. I have quite a number of friends in the class, but due to the bullying, a lot of these friends didn't want to befriend me anymore because they were afraid of being bullied as well. So it was quite lonely for me in school back then. Yeah, it almost felt like I was the only person with a disability in the entire school. Right? Even though, to be honest, at that time I didn't know there was this term called disability. Yeah, I just know that I have hearing loss. Yeah, so that was how uninclusive, right, our society was back then. Yeah.
When you look back at it as well, what do you think got you through those very, very difficult periods of bullying? What was it, something you were telling yourself, or was it something your family or friends did? How did you actually, get past this period?
So I didn't tell my family members about the bullying until later on, because I tried to, I would say, tolerate everything myself. So sometimes I would just go home, then I would just focus on my homework, right? Play my computer games to escape from reality for a while. Yeah. Even though I said I didn't really have any friends, but in primary school and secondary school where I was bullied the most, right, I have one very good friend, like one very good friend in primary school, one very good friend in secondary school. We are still best friends today, right? So somehow they didn't mind being friends with me, and I mean, I think this has not changed over the years. We tend to tell our friends more. We tend to confide in our friends more compared to our family members sometimes. Yeah. So I confided in these two friends of mine whenever there were difficulties.
I see.
Yeah. And even though they couldn't really do anything, to resolve the situation, but the fact that they were there for me actually proved that they were very strong pillars of support for me. Yeah.
What do you think was the quality of these friends that stood by you? What do you think is there a common thread between them, like why they actually stood by you and all as well?
That's actually a very good question. I've not really thought about it, but if I were to put a word to it, probably empathy. Right? I don't quite believe that they sympathize with me. Maybe a little bit, yeah, but I guess the fact that they didn't mind, being my friend, even though everyone else did not, proved that they have some empathy for me, the situation that I went through, and probably the sense of brotherhood. Yeah, that's all I can say.
Because bullying and all these years, it's always been a very hot topic for young people in schools and all. If you have any advice for a young person who might be in school now and going through bullying and feeling like there's no way out, there's no light at the end of the tunnel, what advice would you give this young person?
I think the best advice I can give to them, right, is don't let yesterday's pain take away today's happiness. Yeah. I think this quote is very powerful and meaningful to me as well, because to be honest, I also used to let pain from previous times affect me a lot, right? But thinking back now, I now I learn from the pain, right? I learn from all these bad experiences, and to be honest, I think all human beings we learn best from bad experiences, right? So it's just a matter of perspective, right? Whether you want to grow from the bad experience or you want to continue in that, that hole, right? So, but I guess, I think in summary is don't let yesterday's pain, right, take away the happiness that you deserve today. Yeah.
Okay, I think that's a very good message. Maybe for listeners or viewers who don't fully understand what it's like to live with a disability, right? Could you talk a bit about the more practical side of things, like how different do you have to live life with your disability compared to people who take listening for granted, for example. Yeah, how different is day-to-day life?
So number one is I can't multitask. I think a lot of people are able to multitask. For example, they just type on their laptop while not looking at what other people are saying,
Yeah.
right? Or just writing. But for me, it's very difficult because I need to lip read people in order to catch what they are saying.
I see.
Yeah. So that's one. Then, of course, watching media, right, without any captions or subtitles. Nowadays, it's quite impossible for me to understand what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So nowadays things like Netflix, Disney Plus, or all these streaming platforms, they have live CC, or
Yeah.
not live CC, they have CC,
Yeah.
right, closed captioning. Right? So I'm able to understand and follow what's going on. Right. Third one is when it comes to verbal announcement, right? So whether it's in a shopping mall or the MRT or the bus, I can hear the announcement, but I don't know what they're saying. Yeah, so this does some inconvenience for me, right? And also, um, I do fear going overseas alone, right? The reason being because when I go to sleep, I usually will take out my hearing aid,
Okay.
right? Then if anything happens, then I wouldn't know. Yeah, then of course, hospitals, right? You know, sometimes they give you the queue number,
Yeah.
then they will flash on the screen, right?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but sometimes nurses just like to come out and
Yeah,
call your name verbally, right? And somehow they are wearing masks.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's very difficult for me to hear. Yeah, so there
Oh.
was one time I was waiting for 45 minutes to an hour
Yeah.
past my appointment time. Then I couldn't take it anymore, so I just asked. Then the nurse said, "Oh, actually, I called your name just now, but you didn't respond."
I was curious, is lip reading a double-edged sword also, where you are also able to see what people are saying from a distance and read what they're saying?
To be honest, so far it has been advantageous for me,
Okay.
right, rather than disadvantage. So so sometimes when we're watching TV and like watching soccer, then sometimes the manager would shout something to the players, even though there was no sound, but I can roughly tell what the manager is shouting about.
Okay.
Yeah. Then but I guess the double-edged sword would be I have become over reliant on it to the point that if I can't lip read, then I wouldn't be able to catch what people are saying.
I see. Some of the examples you raised, like for example, train announcements, right? Those are things in our system, right? That maybe don't recognize the presence of people who are hard of hearing. Do you feel Singapore on a whole is an inclusive place to live?
I would say there are two parts to this. Like the first part is physical accessibility and infrastructure. To that, yes, I would say Singapore is relatively accessible nowadays, right, except for some older areas,
Okay.
right, where they have to still retrofit with ramps or lift or whatever. So the physical infrastructure is a hardware, right? Then the other hardware, which is your heart, right? Hardware is people's perspective, right? Mindset towards persons with disabilities. Yeah, I guess um, people like us with physical and sensory disabilities, we are easier to understand. Our challenges are more straightforward in a sense, right? So, for example, I'm hard of hearing. I need captioning, right? So, if you do a video, just put caption, right? I mean, of course, it will take a bit more effort, right, to create an inclusive video, right? But it can be done, right? It's just a matter of tweaking things. But for people with invisible disabilities, like autism, intellectual disability, and sometimes those learning difficulties as well, ADHD, dyslexia. Uh, Unfortunately, our society still does not have a lot of understanding about these disabilities. But the fact that these disabilities, right, are invisible, right, and there is a lot of uncertainty to the behaviors, uh, it makes people scared sometimes, right, because they do not know how to respond when something happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. So therefore, I would say that people are still quite guarded, right, quite reserved when it comes to the hardware of things.
Okay. Sort of talking about this also, just to kind of set in context, like what living with a disability or being hard of hearing is like, right? So just talking about your partner and your relationship and all, can you talk a little bit about how you and your partner met in the first place?
Yeah. Uh, I met her during a sign language class that I
Oh,
attended.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, so sign language is important.
Yes. So I was just telling my friend, hey, you want to go learn another language together, right? Then I suggested like maybe Malay or something else. Then my friend just say, you might as well go and learn sign language. Then I said, okay, fine, let's go learn sign language. Okay. So then yeah, we end up booking the course, right? Then we went for it. It was at Singapore Association for the Deaf. Yeah, so we went for it. So I remember when we went on to class, right, the tables were arranged in a U shape.
Okay,
Right. So I was sitting here, right? My friend was sitting on my left.
okay.
Then my wife, right, was sitting beside me on my right.
Your now wife, lah,
Yeah,
but
my
then
now
okay,
wife was
okay.
sitting beside me. So then, I mean, because I know my friend, right? So I just talk to him all the time.
Yeah.
Then it was only until the third or fourth lesson, then my friend started to talk to the person next to him.
Okay.
Yeah. So I got a little bit bored and then I just turned, then I just talked to her. Yeah. So, I mean, that's how everything started from there.
I see.
Yeah.
You mean it was like sparks, romantic sparks from the get go already, or
No,
was it?
so as I got to talk to her more and know her better, well, I find that she's a very nice person, right? And inclusive as well. So that time she was working at one of the hospitals in Singapore. Then I had a medical appointment at the hospital.
Okay.
Yeah, one day. So I just texted her and said, hey, I got medical appointment, want to meet for lunch. Yeah. So yeah, why not? Oh, she agreed. Then we went for lunch. Then that lunch place was very noisy, right?
Okay.
Unfortunately, but very crowded also. So I had a lot of difficulty trying to hear her. Yeah.
Okay. And that was the first date, lah, in some way.
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah. But even though I had to keep asking her to repeat herself, she didn't show any signs of frustration.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's when, and also she took out her phone to text me, right, when I really couldn't hear what she's saying. Yeah, so, and her texts were quite detailed, not the one word, one sentence kind.
I see.
So that made me feel like, oh wow, she's very inclusive, right, towards me. And to be honest, finding an inclusive partner was very important to me, right, because of my disability. Right, yeah.
But was there any fear or anything that that she might find it too difficult or insurmountable? Was there, especially in the early stages of a relationship and all, were there these thoughts in your mind, and how do you talk about it with her?
Yes, to be honest, yes. I had a lot of worries back then. Personally, I think being in a relationship with someone is not just two-person, right? It involves other people around, right? So if let's say her parents don't like me or her siblings don't like me, then it will be very difficult for her, right, moving forward. So I don't want to cause this kind of unpleasantness, right, or bad experience for her, right? So, but thankfully, before we got together, right, somehow I had the chance to meet her parents and family members.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I managed to meet her parents. I managed to meet her siblings. Like on a, I would say on a platonic basis lah. Back then we weren't together yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's when I think that's when they know about my hearing loss. Right. But they still talk to me as as per usual. No discrimination or whatsoever. Yeah. Yeah.
What do you feel like? You mentioned that she is a very inclusive individual and all that, but for yourself also, like, what do you do to make sure that communication between you two is always an open channel and as free flowing as possible? What do you do to set that up?
I wouldn't say everything is smooth sailing. Yeah. I guess I think this is something that a lot of people encounter with me as well.
Yeah.
Because I can still talk relatively well. I can still hear relatively well. Right. So people tend to forget that I have hearing loss sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that happens to my wife as well. So she knows that I need to live with, but sometimes maybe she just forgot about it in the moment, or she's busy doing something. Like so, she doesn't want to turn around to to just talk to me. Yeah, I think that's fine. Yeah, but sometimes I had to then go over to her and then ask her to repeat herself.
Yeah.
Yeah. But some of the things that we have worked out, right? For example, let's say if I'm showering, right, I need to take out my hearing aid. Right. So if somehow she needs something urgent from the toilet at a time or something urgent, then I tell her to turn the light switch on and off.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
that light flicker, right?
So it's like Morse code almost.
Something like that. Yeah. So if I know that the lights are flickering, then I know that she needs me. Right.
Okay.
Somehow. So I just open the door and then because no matter how loud she bang the door or whoever bang the door, I won't be able to hear.
So it sounds like you all have worked out a system and I mean in ways she's also like how she learns sign language. She learns how to communicate with you in many different ways, right? But I did want to ask how do you think your wife makes you a better person?
I guess she makes me a better person, not just related to my disability, but as a whole. Because, I mean, typically, right, when we talk to people that we are not familiar with or we are not so on close terms with, we tend to put on a front, right? We want to appear polite, right? But with people that we are very familiar with, like your family members and all these or friends, right? We let down this front, right? And our true self come out. Right? So in a way, my wife allows me to do that. Right? Even right from the start. Once I started getting comfortable with her. Because ultimately I think communication is the one that is the core of every relationship, I would say.
I see. How do you think that your own background, your own experience has led to you being more decisive that way?
Definitely yes. As I age and grew older, right, I realized that time is very precious, right? And I shouldn't be wasting time worrying about things that are not happening, or worrying about things that haven't happened yet, right? I think for me, I have come to the point that time is very precious to me, right? So I don't want to waste time or effort thinking about things that I cannot control. I rather focus on things that I can control, right? I can make the best out of it. Yeah, so I guess it's really a matter of perspective.
Okay. I can imagine there's some advice that you do give to people, even in your job as well, right? And I understand you do your work with Inclus involves you helping other persons with disabilities to find work and to sort of even just prepare themselves for the workforce. Can you talk a little bit about what you do at Inclus and how you help people?
Okay, so over at Inclus, as I mentioned, we help the PWDs, right, to find employment and ultimately gain independent living out there. So how do we do this is we get the PWDs in, right, who are looking for employment or internship. Then we are here to match them to available roles of companies that we are partnering with, right? So we try our best to match them according to their experience, their passion, their interest, right? And what areas that they want to do, right? And along the way, right, all the way through, we are there to support them, right? Whether it is through their first contact with us, right, all the way to when we place them in the job. Because once we place them in the job, we also go down to do job support for them, right, to ensure that they have a smooth transition, right, in the workplace. And also, not just for the candidate, but also for the employer, right, because sometimes the employer also requires support in terms of doing that disability inclusion work, right, for this candidate. Right? So that's just for the candidate. Then of course on the corporate and company side of things, right? So we also go around looking for companies or corporates to partner with, right? If they have any available roles out there, right, they are looking for inclusive hiring, they can come to us, right? But if they are also looking, like for example, for training workshops, to train their staff on how to be more disability inclusive, we are here to train them as well.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So these are the two core areas that we are working on. Then of course we are working on some other things like enrichment programs, events for persons with disabilities, so that they have some fun and enrichment in their lives.
Got it. So I mean, it does sound like it's more than just job matching, right?
Yeah.
There's an element of not only the employee but also the employer. But let's focus on the employee for a little bit. What do you think when the person walks through your doors, includes, what do you think is the one big fear that they have when they're first starting to look for work?
I think the one big fear that they have before starting work is definitely the fear of discrimination. Right. I can say this because it happens to me as well.
Okay.
Right. So me being hard of hearing, when I first looked for jobs after graduation, the fear of being discriminated was always something on my mind. Right. Whether I could declare, my condition in the job declaration form, right? Whether I should declare on my resume and all this, right? So I had a lot of questions on this, right? So, something that I always advise by our candidates, right, or students, right, is ultimately the choice is theirs, right? That whether they want to declare or not. So, but if they choose not to declare, right, it's fine, right? Because we can't force them to declare.
Yeah.
So, but sometimes I always tell them the pros and cons of declaring and not declaring, right? Just so that they have a overall picture and they can make their decision from there.
I mean, now in the media and all, we read a lot of stereotypes about different generations of workers in the workplace. Do you also feel differences in the people who come through your doors? It includes differences in, slightly older versus the younger people who are looking for jobs. Do you feel any generational differences?
In general, yes, there is a difference. I would say, members of public as well, I would say generally the older generation tend to be a little bit more resistant towards disability inclusion as a whole.
Okay.
Right? And to be honest, not just disability inclusion, it's anything that is out of the norm.
Yeah.
Right? So whether it's mental health related, LGBTQ or this, right? Whereas the younger generation, they are generally more accepting, right? Or maybe they just don't care.
Yeah.
So that can be it also. Right? So I think that's really the key difference between the generation.
Do you have to change how you talk to them about issues between generations as well?
Yes. I used to speak to someone who is on a slightly older age.
Yeah.
So basically, this person is trying to get back to work, right?
Okay.
But he has this fear, a very deep fear of the disability that he has, and it resulted in a very negative perception, right, about finding inclusive employment out there. Right? So I had to talk to him a few times, right? And I also had to use my own experience to share with him, right? How I came about being so open, and about my own condition and how I started advocating for my own condition as well, right? So one thing that I mentioned to him was a disability is a disability because it cannot be cured. Yeah, that is a medical term for a disability. So I told him that, right? because he was still hanging on to the hope that he can be cured one day. Right? So I told him that a disability cannot be cured. Right? You have it, live with it, and move on. Right? So it sounds very harsh, right? But I at that point in time, I needed to give him the reality. Right? I need to bring him out from that perception that things can be better. Yes, things can be better, but not your condition. Right? Things can be better if you have a change in your perception. Right? So that's what I was trying to do.
I see.
Right? So I think eventually he got it. Right? And now I think he's living a much happier life.
I see.
Yeah,
I see.
yeah.
So in some ways, it's you almost have to like be a counselor to get them to change their perception about things, right?
Yes, yes, yeah.
Okay.
The reason why also because before working at Include, I was working at one of the polytechnic,
Okay.
Temasek Polytechnic, right? As a special educational needs officer, right? So my role there was also to help support the students with disabilities and special educational needs, right? So we had to work very closely with our counseling colleagues,
Yeah.
right? They are professional counselors. Right? I don't have a professional counseling degree or diploma, so I can't do counseling per se, right? But because we work very closely with them, right? So on some of the students who have comorbidity, they have a disability, they have a mental health issue, right? So over time, I pick up certain things here and there. I also had to go for some psychology first aid course, right?
Okay.
So even though it's not counseling, but I guess I can still help to manage people's emotions a little bit more. Yeah.
What about the employer side of things? I mean, you mentioned that you also had to do a lot of programs to actually educate employers as well. Have things gotten better since in the last number of years that you've been a part of Purple Parade, and as well includes have things gotten better when it comes to employers?
Yes, yes. I think I would definitely agree that things have gotten better over the past few years. Right? At least compared to the past few decades. Right? Things have definitely gotten much better. More and more employers are coming on board the inclusive hiring journey.
Yeah.
Right? They are more open to taking in candidates with disabilities. So I think this is a very promising thing, right, for us to be aware of.
So what do you think what's the biggest misconception that employers have about employing persons with disabilities?
Okay, I would say one of the biggest misconceptions that employers have about PWDs is that we are not as capable compared to persons without disabilities. Right? In a way, it's true, but it also depends on the job scope. Right? So, for example, if you ask me to do like, for example, customer service at a bank, attending to phone calls and all this, yes, I have to admit I can't do that job, right? Because I wouldn't be able to read, right, what the other party is saying over the phone.
Yeah.
Right? So yes, I can't function, right? But if you put me in somewhere else, right, that doesn't involve this kind of thing that no lip reading, right? Then I will be able to do it, right? Maybe just as well as anyone else, right? So it's a matter of putting the person in the right job fit, right? And this is what we are doing with our employer partners, right? When they send us the roles available, then we will look through the candidates that we have, right? So certain candidate profile that we think we are suitable, we will send it over to them, right, with all the accommodations and needs, right? And then sometimes if the candidate can't fulfill 100% of the role, right, we can discuss with the employer, can you do some job redesigning, right, or changing the job scope such that the person can do most of the workload. Right. So it doesn't have to be 100%, right? Sometimes it can be 90% or 80%, right? Then we can adjust from there accordingly.
I see. I see. Just thinking about employers, right? Like I think the ones that actually come to you probably they already do have in mind to be a bit more progressive in their workplace policies and all. But what about the the lot of the SMEs and smaller businesses out there that haven't even taken that first step about thinking about working with people with disabilities? Like what's a small step or that they can do to start being more inclusive in the day-to-day work?
Okay, so basically there are two small steps that they can take, right? So number one, right, is to get themselves educated and more aware of um, how they can support PWDs at their workplace.
Yeah.
Right. So, so let's say for example they have a lot of steps at their stores or shops, right? Then they have to know that wheelchair users wouldn't be able to work there, right? Because of inaccessibility. Right. So that's usually the first step. Right. Then the second step is start small, hire interns first. Right. Don't go deep into hiring a full timer because a full timer is a lot of commitment. You have to pay a lot of salary and all this. But for interns, they are usually over a few months duration, and then the allowance is probably a few hundreds a month, right? Which is much more low cost, right, and better for a company that is just starting on this journey, right? So this is usually what we recommend, right, to the company, and of course, if they wish to take us up on like corporate training, right, we are there for them also. We will train their staff or whoever is there on how to interact and support PWDs.
And you mentioned that it's a journey that starts even before hiring, after hiring, and even training beyond that, right? Is the take-up rate for when they hire someone, do they also look at doing a lot of the training and other things as well? Do companies naturally become a bit more open-minded about these things?
Yeah. So let's say if they do decide to take in a candidate from us, whether is it a full time or a internship, right? We will usually call for a session to involve the to involve the supervisor as well as the working colleagues, right, for the candidate, right? So just before the candidate joins on the first day. Preferably. This is so that we can brief them on what to expect for this candidate. Right, we will share with them the condition, the needs and accommodations needed, so that they have in mind already. They are prepared for it, and then we also give them some tips and strategies on how to support this person at the workplace. So by the time this person enters the workforce on the first day, right, our job coach will also be there to do the onboarding.
Okay.
Then after that, we will make everything seamless from there.
I see. So it's a bit of a hand-holding process to make sure that it's easier for everyone.
Yeah, to make sure that they are ready before we slowly scale back on the support. Then once, let's say they have a successful internship done already, then they can then take the further step. Maybe next time they can hire 2 interns, hire 3 interns, or even go for a part-timer or full-timer.
Okay. So, I mean, because we are, in times the global economy and everything, it's a lot of upheaval going on now. There's a lot of pullback or pushback against diversity, equality, and inclusion programs. How do you feel when you see the news headlines and about this pulling back on DEI programs and all?
Yeah, to be honest, my first thought when I first read the news was quite shocking to me. Right? Because I think DEI was up and coming over the past few years. Then suddenly everyone started pulling up. Right? So it was quite shocking. But I think thankfully, most of the companies here in Singapore are not affected by that. Right? It's usually the bigger ones, like they have overseas market. Right? They are affected. Right? But for a lot of local SMEs or companies, they are not affected, and that's why we are still able to continue doing what we are doing, right? And these companies are still continuing to hire inclusively as well.
Yeah. So I mean, just going back to where Singapore stands in all of this, right? Do you feel Singapore can be a good example to the rest of the world about inclusion? Are we there yet that we can say that hey, we are doing a good job, or what more can Singapore do to actually be that shining beacon about inclusivity to the world?
I would say again, physical infrastructure. Yes, right. Other countries can look to us as maybe a role model, right? The way we have retrofitted a lot of things to make things as inclusive physically as much as possible. But On the other hand, the hardware side, right, the people, the mindset and perspective, I don't think it's a good idea for other countries to look to us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yet.
Okay.
That's I think the key word here is yet.
Yet. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe we still have quite some ways to go. Probably another 10, 20 years, right, before we reach the levels of other countries, right? For example, like Australia,
Yeah.
right? US,
Okay.
right? They have all these much more inclusive policies and processes compared to us.
Okay.
Yeah. Just recently, I came back from Bali.
Okay.
Right. I was at this beach club. Right. Then there was a DJ playing the music.
Yeah.
Right. Then everyone was gathering in front, the crowd. And as you know, Bali has quite a number of, I would say, Caucasian.
Okay.
Right. Probably Australians, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was actually a wheelchair user. Right at the
Okay.
front of the stage, right, enjoying the music. Right. And he was just enjoying like all of us here. Right. There was no restriction. And then when the music changed, then he started doing spinning around the area. Right. He started spinning around the area with the wheelchair, and
Yeah.
everyone was just cheering him along. Right. Even though he required a lot of space for that spinning,
Yeah.
but everyone just naturally just step back a little bit, cheer for him, and it was a very heartwarming sight. Right. So it shows me that who says people can't go to this kind of event,
Yeah.
right? Even if they have a disability.
I did want to touch on one thing. I think recently on your social media you did post about going back to your alma mater to give a talk, right? And I think that you mentioned that meant a lot to you, right? But could you tell us a bit more about that?
Okay. So basically, I graduated from NUS back in 2014, right? So, MSF or MOE, whichever, I think they started the Special Educational Needs Office in the Institute of Higher Learning back in 2013, right? So basically, I only had 1 year, right, to interact with my SCN officer before I graduate.
Yeah.
And to be honest, there was not much support because things were just getting started, and but I guess that because she knew that I was from NUS, right? But for very long, I wasn't invited back. I remember attending one event just before I graduated, right? But I was never invited back as an alumnus.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So, but I still kept in very close contact with her because she was an SCN officer in NUS. Then I became an SCN officer in NTU. Then I went on to Temasek Poly. Right. So because of this SCN officer relationship, we were quite close. Right. So I always joke with her, hey, when are you inviting me back to NUS? For a talk? Yeah. So yeah, that's why finally earlier, this year, she invited me back to speak with some year one student, freshmen, with disabilities who just joined NUS. So I shared my story with them, basically telling them things like, don't be afraid that you are choosing the wrong course, right? Because I think a lot of people, we graduate, right? We also don't end up doing the course that we are studying for.
Yeah.
So, but it meant a lot to me because in a way, I think even though I'm now with Include, right, but I have spent 7 years in the education sector, right, supporting students, and that will always be in my heart as one of the core things that I believe in, educating the younger generation, right, inspiring them, helping them to grow out of this shell, right, that they are guarding against.
Okay. So it's really about going back and sharing your own experience and helping them to, even in their own struggles, to break out of that as well.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So I mean, I always like to end with a bit of hypothetical, but related to what we talked about. If you were, let's say, the president of Singapore for a month or something, and you had a chance to improve inclusivity in the workplace and all, what's one thing that you would do to make it inclusivity utopia for everyone?
I guess if I were to have my way, right, then I would say I will implement a policy that every company must hire inclusively. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, this is not a law yet, right? Companies can choose whether they want to hire or not, right? But I guess as I mentioned, if I were to have my way, I think this is something that I will implement. Right? Every company you must hire,
Yeah.
a PWD.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and before we end off, any last word of advice for a young person who's listening to this and maybe thinking about their career and their fears about their career in the future? What's your one piece of advice for them?
Okay, I would say my one piece of advice, right, is don't be afraid to do what you think you are good at. And don't be afraid. Okay, maybe let me repeat that.
Sure.
Okay, I would say the one advice I would give to people, young people, out there is don't be afraid to strive for what you think you are good at. Yeah. A lot of time, we PWDs, we auto remove ourselves from the equation.
Yeah.
Right. Meaning, for example, I still remember back then, one of my dreams was to become a doctor. Right. But in order to be a doctor, you need to have good hearing. Because how then can you put on the stethoscope and listen to heartbeats or whatever? Right? Yeah. So because of my hearing aids, then I auto remove myself from this equation that okay, I can't be a doctor. Right. So, but nowadays stethoscope can connect to hearing aids.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I'm trying to say. Technology is here to help you, right? So don't be afraid to try something that you are good at. Because you never try, you never know, right? So let's try not to live with regrets.
I guess there's a lot of people also who listen to this who are thinking, how can I, whether it's support or find out more about the ways that we can make Singapore more inclusive for PWDs, right? Where can they go to find out more information and all?
Oh yes, definitely. You guys can come over and join us at the Purple Parade in October. So Purple Parade is Singapore's largest platform, right, where we celebrate persons with disabilities.
All right, thanks, Winston. Thanks so much for sharing and going into our history and telling us the stories that really I think resonate with people who are listening. And thank you also for tuning in, and we'll talk to you all soon.
Thank you.